Hi, welcome to the demonstration of geolocation tracking features which have been added into the RMS module. So basically when you download uh, the zip file from the GitHub repository, it has been added with these 6 files to include the geolocation tracking feature. Uh, One is users file has been added, which is basically a JSON file, and a user profile, another JSON file, and the configuration file, which includes the pubnub keys, has been modified to include one more parameter called simulate the geolocation tracking feature. We'll see what does that mean. And there are two HTML files, geolocation tracking server and geolocation client, and it's got two JS files, the JavaScript file, which are obfuscated JavaScript files, are called from these HTML files. So these are the additional files that have been added in the repository. So when you download from the GitHub, the RMS folder will contain these additional files. So we'll just see what are the contents of these new files. So the first file is the GLS geolocation server file. So here you don't have to do anything except you have to add the Google Maps key you have to obtain, and the procedure is given in the pubnub page, this page, and the link is given in the help file. So here it explains how to obtain the API keys. So you have to follow that procedure, just like pubnub keys. You have to obtain the Google Maps API keys. So this is the geolocation server HTML file, and which calls geolocation server JavaScript file and a config file. Config file contains the pubnub keys and the simulate flag. So similarly, there is another HTML file which has to be run on a client. So here also you have to insert here the key. The key has been deleted from here, but you have to obtain the Google Maps API key and keep it here, insert it here, and there is nothing else to be changed here. So apart from that, we have introduced the users feature. That is, you have to log in into the client, into the geolocation client, to be able to access so that the geolocation server can track all the location of all the clients who have logged in. So basically this is a JSON format. You have to give the username and the password and the profile. So you can enter. These are by default 3 users have been defined. One is admin, other is guest, and third is visitor. And these are their passwords. And these are the user profiles. SU is super user, basic user, and this is a temporary user. So the profiles are defined in another JSON file. This is again, profile name is super user, access is read write, and the description is super user. So you can give whatever name you want, but the access has to be either read or read write or no access, only XX. So these are the files that have been added for the geolocation feature. Apart from that, yeah, that's it. And some of these scripts have been modified to remove some bugs and to handle the geolocation feature. So rest of things remain same. So as usual, we have to start the PubNub, and there's no need of starting a timer. The timer is required for the RMS dashboards feature, that is the EON project. So if you don't want EON to run EON, you want only geolocation tracking feature, then you need not start the timer. Or even if you start the timer but you don't have the EON file, basically if you remember in the RMS folder there is a EON configuration file. This defines what are the different channels for different dashboards. So if the file is missing or there is no file named eon.txt, you rename it to something else, then the EON feature is disabled. That is, if you are not interested in the dashboards, you are only interested in the geolocation, then either you can rename this to something else or delete this, or you need not start a timer. But for geolocation tracking we need, and as well as the EON dashboards, you need to first start the PubNub. So click on this. So in the log files you will find yeah, it has started successfully. Just to check whether the server has started successfully or not. The next step is to go to this folder and open this geolocation server file, HTML file, into a browser. So it will ask you for permission whether you want the location to be read by the browser. So this is our server. This has to be run on the Ignition server. Now there are no clients, so it is logged in, so it doesn't show any client locations. Then you have to start basically you have to copy these files, HTML, GLC, HTML, JS, and config. These files, your three files, you have to copy onto the clients. It could be a desktop client or a mobile client or Android or iOS. You have to copy these three files as explained in the previous tutorials onto the Android phone or iOS phone, and basically open this in a browser. So we are just simulating. So if you look at this config file, it has got a publish key. So you have to replace this demo with the actual keys of PubNub keys that you obtain from PubNub by creating an account there. So you have to enter the keys over here, and there is a simulate flag. If this is true, this is applicable only for the geolocation tracking feature. So if the flag is set to true, then the client's location will be simulated. So what that means is that if you open this in a browser, I'll again ask you your permission. Now you have to log in. So it log in through PubNub Cloud. So if this client is existing on a mobile phone or Android phone, so this window will pop up. So we have to log in with one of the users that you have defined, valid users, and a valid password. Once you do that, then it will it takes a timer of 5 seconds starts. So now this is the random location. There's a simulate. That's what I meant by simulate. So location of this client is being simulated, and the server is showing the location. This client location is being tracked, and each client will be numbered, and who has logged in you can see from here. So you can open as many clients as you wish. Another client. So you have to ask, maybe we can give another Now the timer takes some 5 seconds to start. Yeah, now it is generated a random location for this. So if the simulate flag is set to false, and you start the whole process, then it will show you the actual location. Right now we have two clients, and they will be shown as 1, 2, and up to 9, and after that it will start with ABCD lowercase, and after that it will start with ABCD capital. So something like 50, approximately 50 or 60 clients you can show, and after that it will again start with 1, 2, 3. So hopefully you will not have more than 50 clients, and it shows who is the name of that. Yeah, you can zoom in, zoom out. So this is the server which will remain on the ignition, and these clients will exist on the mobile devices anywhere, and the communication will be through PubNub, not through some Wi-Fi or VPN. So that's an advantage. You can track your clients from anywhere on the globe. Yeah, I think that's all the features of this. Now the instructions for this have been modified here, and the new files have been added. So when you download this zip, as explained in the previous steps, if you copy this the entire yeah, from here, if you download this, then it will contain the additional files. Rest of the files are the same in as explained in the previous tutorials, and the new instructions have been also explained here. New steps for the geolocation tracking. So basically these are the new files added, and yeah, of course there is a new project also is created under a project folder or RMS. So this new project will contain the new scripts, and another thing is that this is only for version 7.9, because for version 8 there are some issues. I believe we have to wait for the release of 8.020, yeah, version 8.02, and then the same files will be ported there, and a new project will be created which is for the version 8. So right now it's only 7.9.10 and below, and which makes sense because in version 8 probably you will already have some geolocation features. So this is mostly to cater to the earlier versions, but of course you can run it on version 8 also. So the advantage there will be you can access it on internet or using PubNub without requiring any VPN. So this is the first step. You have to copy the files. The files will contain you have to copy them under C:\RMS as given in the previous steps, and as explained you have to modify the config.js to include the PubNub keys, and the Google Map API keys you have to obtain as explained in this PubNub tutorials. So basically API keys are, you can get it freely, but only thing is that after some trials it'll gray out the screen for you, but as a developer it will run in only developer mode. But if you have to run it on a commercial basis, then you have to register with Google. You have to give your credit card details, and they give you $300 worth of credit free of cost, and their regular billing terms and condition apply, which is actually quite reasonable. And then you have to start the PubNub as explained in the previous step. The timer need not be started unless you want the yarn dashboards. Then open the gls.html in a browser, HTML5 browser, preferably Chrome browser on the Ignition server. Actually it can be on any server, connected to the Ignition server because it communicates with the Ignition server through the PubNub APIs which we have created as explained in the previous tutorials. And then the geolocation client HTML has to be opened. So there are three files, glc HTML, .js and config.js. These three files are required to be copied onto the mobile device, and then you have to open this glc.html in a browser on the Android or iOS and enable the location access, and then it will periodically every 5 seconds this client will send through PubNub cloud its location to the GLS that is the server, geolocation server, which is on the Ignition gateway. Then the simulate flag, if it is set to false, then the actual location will be sent. If it is true, then it will randomly generate. Each client will every 5 seconds it will generate a random number within the visible area, and it will send the location onto the server. And of course the user.text and profile.text has been explained. The users have been added into this. These users are different from Ignition users file. This is basically we integrate with Ignition at an arm's length. We are not directly accessing all the. So with the interface is minimal. So you have to duplicate the users and profiles for the geolocation and the RMS. So only the subset of users will have access to these features. So that's the idea, or the entire users can be given. That's up to you. Okay, I think that's all about this geolocation server. And another thing is that the locations which are coming to the server are actually available to the Ignition scripts. It is possible to write it onto the Ignition tag, one of the latitude, longitude, and the username or whatever unique properties of these clients are, that can be dynamically updated into the tags of. It is possible to. Right now we haven't given that feature, but it is possible if users feel that it is required, necessary, or it may be useful or helpful to have these locations stored in the Ignition database. We can very easily enable that feature, but right now we haven't provided. Yeah, I think that's all about it. And yeah, we are pretty soon coming out with a new module which allows you to monitor the P&I 2D P&I diagrams on a mobile phone or any HTML5 browser. So that will also have a similar username and password feature. So anybody can log in and then open a project file which defines the so there are some demos given in on our portal. So it was developed for NJSCADA. So basically it is that MSCADA module, so that will be made available onto this as well. So thanks a lot for your time, and please try to evaluate and give us a feedback what additional features you would like to have, so we can easily provide you with those features. So thanks a lot.